Getting to date 3 is hard. Getting past date 3, even harder. If you feel like promising connections keep dying out before they even start, you're not alone. Today, we're diving into why this happens so often, how to spot it if you're subconsciously making it harder than it needs to be, and practical strategies to build momentum when you meet someone you're actually interested in. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no-nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease. Whether you've been dating for a while or you're just starting out, I believe dating can be fun, especially when things get past date 3, which is rare. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about something that I'm super excited for in the new year. I am leading my How to Identify Your Needs Masterclass on January 5th and 12th, 2026. So if you've ever worried about settling, if you've ever felt confused about what you actually want, or if you struggle to communicate your needs without feeling needy, this workshop is for you. Defining your needs in a partner is the most important part of dating intentionally. It's what allowed me to find someone who meets my needs naturally and happily, and it's what eliminates that constant anxiety of, am I asking for too much? Because I know I'm not. For the first time, I'm splitting this masterclass into 2 sessions so we can go deeper with live Q&A, coaching, breakout rooms, worksheets, and just doing the work together. This is the work that gave me clarity and confidence in my dating life, and I want to guide you through it without the thousands of dollars and hundreds of therapy hours it took me to figure it out. This masterclass is so much more affordable, and I've streamlined the process for you. If you can't make it live, there will be recordings. So head to datingintentionallypod.com/needs to sign up. That's datingintentionallypod.com/needs. And that will also be in the show notes for you. It's happening the first week of January, so sign up before then. Okay, so back to today's topic. We're getting into why getting past date 3 feels damn near impossible, techniques to increase your chances of getting past date 3 with someone you actually like, the best date ideas for this stage of dating, and how to not get discouraged if you keep hitting that date 3 wall. And at the end, I'm answering a dating dilemma about getting a concert invite for 3 months out after your first date. All right, so let's get into why connections fizzle by date 3, because again, I think this is really common. I know for me in my dating journey, and again, I wrote all this down, so that's why I know all the numbers, but I went out with 64 people, so that was 64 first dates. I had 30 second dates, and I had 17 third dates and 11 fourth dates. So that's the conversion, that's the breakdown. I went from 64 to 11 fourth dates, which is actually pretty good, but still, that's a lot of first dates compared to fourth dates. I'm sure someone out there listening can do the percentage math on that. I can't. I just know it's a pretty small percentage. So the first reason I want to get into, which probably won't surprise you, is texting. Texting will absolutely cause the connection to fizzle out by date 3, if not before. And that usually happens if there's too much texting or too little, right? There's a real Goldilocks effect here with texting, and we'll get into that more. But basically, too much too soon is not sustainable. It's exhausting, actually, to keep up a lot of communication, a high volume of communication with someone that you barely know. Think about your existing friends and people you do talk to. Like, you might text them consistently and talk to them frequently, but it's not all day. And it depends on, what's going on in your life. Having a lot of texting in the beginning isn't sustainable. It will fizzle out. Or what will happen is that because you can't keep up that level, you'll start to feel the shift or feel like there's a lack of interest. Or what will happen is because you can't keep texting at that high volume level, one of you or both of you will start to feel like there's a shift and someone's losing interest because they can't keep that amount of texting up. On the other side, we have too little texting, right? If there isn't enough texting between dates, it'll fizzle out because there isn't enough momentum. Both people probably think the other person isn't interested or available. There needs to be some communication between dates to keep it going. So if you're only getting in touch every 5 days and you have a date every 10 days, it's a little too slow. The momentum won't carry you through past the 3rd date wall. And of course, there's texting chicken, which we all know about. This is when both people are waiting for the other person to initiate. That's a really common way that things fizzle out by date 3 because everyone's just waiting to see if the other person is interested in them instead of showing interest, and the connection dies. So that's the first one. Another one is flakiness. And I think flakiness is becoming a lot more common in dating today, which is such a bummer to see. People are canceling plans last minute. They're planning dates and then ghosting after the date is planned. They're not confirming. It's a lot. And I think this is a huge reason why connections don't go past date 3. It's just because flakiness is rampant. And I do get it. If you've had a long day, if you've had a crazy week, maybe the last thing you want to do is continue your connection with someone you barely know. And a date is the first thing to get cut out of your schedule if you're just really overwhelmed. Totally get that. But I do think this increase of flakiness in dating culture is causing a lot of connections to just completely die out. Another one on the scheduling front is logistics friction. You know what I'm talking about. It can be hard to plan if you have different work hours, if you have travel and then they're traveling and then you're traveling and you just can't seem to be in the city at the same time. Maybe one of you has kids or studies or some other thing that's just taking up a lot of your time and energy. So when there's logistics friction, it can be a lot harder to get past date 3. And like I said earlier, it's just sometimes it can be hard to justify making time for a stranger. So I get it. I get why this is a challenge. Another one on my list here is if you are seeing other people. So this one might be a little less common, but I do think it's important to talk about. Sometimes when you are in that early dating phase with someone, dates 1 to 3, maybe they're talking to someone else. Maybe you're talking to someone else. Maybe they started talking to someone before they met you or vice versa. And a different connection is taking off. Sometimes you won't get past date 3 if that happens. I was definitely rejected by people in my dating journey who told me they had a connection with someone else that they were going to pursue, and it just didn't go past date 1 or 2 in that case. So that does happen, and that's just part of dating sometimes. Another one is when people are just going through life stuff. So when it can be hard to go past date 3 when life is just lifing, when your car breaks down, you've got to take your cat to the vet, there's something going on with your kid. Who knows? There's all kinds of things that happen. Life is always going to life. Life is always going to keep throwing things at you, and it can be really hard to fit dating in. And like I said earlier, sometimes those dates are the first thing to go when things come up. So that is another reason why things fizzle before date 3. Okay, here's another one that's a little bit different because we were just talking a lot about kind of scheduling issues. This one is different dating styles. This is another trend that I'm noticing with my clients and people I talk to about dating. A lot of things fizzle out early because people just don't align on how they want to date. And I find this really interesting, and I'm curious if you've experienced this too. Here's an example. I was talking to a guy on my DMs, and he was telling me about a girl he was seeing, and she kind of just straight up said she wanted to hear from him every single day, even though they were still early in their connection. And he pushed back and he said, well, we're just getting to know each other. I don't want to be in daily contact. Both positions to me are reasonable. It's okay to want daily check-ins. And I'm not talking about texting all day long. I just mean a quick, how's your day going? Thinking of you, whatever. And I'm also okay with people not wanting to do that every day. It depends on your style and how you want to get to know someone and what your desired pacing is. So I have been seeing a lot of connections between people fizzle out because they just have different approaches. Maybe someone's like, well, I expect the other person to plan all the dates and the other person doesn't, or one person wants to split the bill, one person doesn't. There's just different styles that can clash sometimes. So this is just another thing to watch for because I think it's becoming more and more common. All right, we've got a few more here. Going a little deeper, another reason it won't get past date 3 is if you have misaligned dating intentions or values. And this is a big one, right? By date 3, you might discover something about the other person or their lifestyle or their values that doesn't align with what you want. And that is a reason why it's not going to go past date 3. And honestly, this is a pretty good scenario to be in, right? You want to discover some of the big things, the values, the lifestyle things in the first 3 dates because you don't want to keep seeing someone who maybe wants kids and you don't, or is super allergic to cats and you have 2 cats, stuff like that. So this is a pretty common one, and I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think there's anything to fix here. This is just part of dating. Okay, here's another interesting one that I'm seeing come up a lot, mostly from the women that I am talking to, the heterosexual women. Actually, even queer women are sharing this issue with me. And that is when they are planning every single date and the other person has not planned any. And so what will happen is by date 3, let's just say you're dating someone and you've planned all 3 dates that you've had. And now you want to step back and see if they're going to plan the next one. And you're kind of sitting there like, okay, have you realized that I planned the first 3 dates? Are you going to pick up the ball? Are you going to take control here? What's going on? And a lot of times they won't do that. They don't really see it that way, or they just haven't noticed, or they don't really care enough to plan a date, right? So that is another kind of trend that I'm seeing lately. And we're going to get into how to avoid all this, but that's something to keep your eye on as well. Another one that I'm seeing come up a lot is no physical touch, which is interpreted as lack of interest. Let me know if you've been there, because what happens is people will assume lack of interest if a kiss or holding hands or some kind of physical romantic touch doesn't happen early on, and then decide to move on. I get so many messages being like, it's been 3 dates and he hasn't kissed me. I don't know if he likes me. And it's like, have you expressed you wanted that? Like, you can also go for it. But I think there is this miscommunication or something getting kind of lost in translation here, where if something physical, and I'm talking about hugging, kissing, not like sex, if something low-key physical doesn't happen in the first few dates, someone's going to interpret it as something is wrong, they don't like me, and they might move on. So those are the main reasons things are going to fizzle out. Oh wait, actually I just thought of one more. And here's one last one that I actually just thought of that I want to add to this list of why things fizzle out by date 3. And that, of course, is when it goes too fast, the pacing is way too fast, or it gets too heavy too fast. And I'm talking about by date 3, you're like having conflict and getting into talking about your needs and talking about these deeper relationship things. No, early dating should be kind of more light, and you shouldn't be worrying about conflict when you've only spent maybe 12 hours with someone. You know what I mean? So that's another reason it's going to fizzle out, because you're going to hit a wall if you are having conflict in those first few dates, and it's probably not going to work out. So just to recap, the 4 main reasons why connections fizzle out by date 3 are: 1, logistical, where you're having friction in planning; 2, different dating styles. You just don't want to date the same way and it's not going to work out; 3, pacing issues like too much texting or rushing the connection; and 4, you're just learning things about each other that make you realize that it's not a match. One question I got about this topic is, how do I know if I'm the problem, right? How do I know if I am subconsciously pushing people away super early on? And maybe you are. So here's a quick little guide to tell if you are subconsciously pushing people away. You are pushing people away if you make it unnecessarily hard for someone to get in touch, make plans, and everything with you. Like, if you're super rigid with, oh, I only make plans 2 business days in advance, or, oh, I'm never going to initiate a text with anyone, like that's unnecessarily making it hard for people to date you. There's no reason to do that. I'd also add that you're subconsciously pushing people away if you have arbitrary rules, like they have to text you within a day after the date or they're gone. Right? You have to think about, why is that so important? Can you give people grace with these things? You're pushing people away if you have a habit of oversharing, trauma dumping, going too fast, and expecting too much too soon. And if you know that and you're continuing to do it anyway, you're subconsciously pushing people away. And finally, if your entire mood, outlook on life, and self-worth rides on the date working out, you are definitely going to be pushing people away. We can pick up on that energy, right? Same goes for if you're salty about dating. If you go into a date salty about dating, salty about the gender of whoever you're dating, like, oh, all women these days or all men these days, whatever, that energy is going to be very clear on the date. So that's the quick little guide. You're not pushing people away if you are authentically showing up and showing interest when you're interested in an appropriate way, right? I'm not talking about love bombing. I'm talking about just showing interest, showing up, being present. I actually have a whole episode on how to show interest the healthy way, so I will link that in the show notes for you. You're not subconsciously pushing people away when you're staying open and you're being compassionate and you're giving people a chance, which doesn't mean accepting bad behavior, but it just means not jumping to conclusions about their behavior necessarily, asking questions, being curious, giving people a little bit of grace. Okay, they didn't text you within 24 hours. Can you give it a little bit more time, and can you reach out to them? That's what I mean. You're not pushing people away if you're taking the time to get to know them actively and letting feelings come naturally if they do at all. And finally, you're not pushing people away if you feel solid in your own life and you know that your entire future does not depend on the date working out. You know you're going to be okay if you don't get past date 3. Like, that's that energy you want to bring. That's a more inviting and confident energy that you can have on dates that will actually help you get past date 3. Okay, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, and then we're going to get into techniques to avoid the 3-date fizzle. This time of year, I am so busy and honestly a little bit stressed preparing for a long international trip this month, which I'm really excited for, but I'm also figuring out holiday gifts, recording a ton of episodes ahead of time, and trying to see all my friends before I leave while also sticking to my workout routine and sleep schedule. It's a lot. And when my schedule gets like this, it's so hard to stay on track with what I'm eating. I'm grabbing whatever, leaving grocery shopping to the last minute, eating at airports. You know how it is. That's why I love AG1. It's the daily health drink clinically proven to fill nutrient gaps that covers your multivitamin, pre- and probiotic superfoods, and antioxidants into one simple green scoop. So even when I'm not eating the way I normally do, I know I'm still giving my body the nutrients it needs. I throw AG1 into my smoothies at home, or I'll just add it to water. It makes supporting gut health so easy, especially when traveling. I'm enjoying AG1's pineapple and vanilla flavor, which is their original flavor, and they have so many other options to choose from. If you're looking to step up your wellness game this season, I highly recommend checking out AG1. AG1 has their best offer ever. If you head to drinkag1.com/dating, you'll get the welcome kit, a morning person hat, a bottle of vitamin D3 and K2, an AG1 flavor sampler, and you'll get to try their new sleep supplement, AGZ, for free, which has been a game changer for my nightly routine. That's drinkag1.com/dating for $126 in free gifts for new subscribers. You might not know this about me, and I'm wondering if we have this in common. I am a bit of a personal finance nerd. I have tried dozens of budgeting and personal finance apps over the years, but the one that has stuck with me is Rocket Money. I've used Rocket Money for the last 3 years, and it's helped me cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitor my spending, and lower bills so I can grow my savings. If you've been looking for a simple, streamlined way to get a sense of where your money is going, set a budget, and manage all the subscriptions that really add up, look no further. Rocket Money is it. One feature I use frequently is the subscription tracker. Rocket Money finds all of your subscriptions, including the ones you forgot about. You're not alone, and helps you cancel the ones that you don't want anymore in just a few taps. It's a great way to be intentional with your money and save for what you actually care about. For me, right now, we're saving up for a Japan trip in 2026 since my husband has never been. And thanks to Rocket Money, it's going to be a breeze. This is wild, but it also doesn't surprise me because this app is that good. Rocket Money has saved users over $2.5 billion, including over $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. Their 10 million members save up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. So if you've been waiting to get serious about your money, this is a great place to start. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/dating today. That's rocketmoney.com/dating, rocketmoney.com/dating. Welcome back. So what happens when you do find someone you like, where you do have their values are aligned? It does seem like it's going to work out. How do you make sure that you can get past date 3? How do you make sure that it doesn't fizzle? So let's get into some techniques. 1, you're going to show interest when you're interested. And I'll link the episode in the show notes. It's definitely worth a listen. It'll break down so many different ways to appropriately show interest in early dating. But that's key. How else are they going to know that you want to keep going, right? Your job is to communicate that. If you like someone and you want to keep seeing them, you need to make that clear. Another technique is to view planning dates as more of a collaborative project or a collaborative task. I don't want you to go into dating being like, they need to plan everything. They need to come in with this plan and you have the exact idea of what the plan should be. Like, that's not fun. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for them. Don't make it like a test. Okay. If you have an idea of what your ideal date is, express that. All you have to do is say what you would like to do, what you would prefer to do. and see planning the best date, the most fun experience you could have with someone who you're getting to know as a collaborative thing. Don't make it a test. So what that could look like is maybe teeing up someone to choose a dinner spot and you can choose the dessert spot. Or letting someone know that you want to go on a bike ride and letting them pick where you do that, or how that happens. Like, it's a collaboration, be a team. And what this does, it helps take the pressure off, right? It takes the pressure off all the planning. And look, planning dates is work. I'm not saying you have to do all the work, but why not both show up and do the work together to make it easier for both of you, right? That sounds good to me. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that one. Okay, the third technique I have for you is to get to the Goldilocks of texting, which is that balance we're looking for where you are texting enough to let them know that they're still on your mind, you're still interested in getting to know them, but you're not texting them all day long. You're not texting them till 2 a.m. You're not sending good morning texts to a total stranger. Like, that's way too much. Find the middle ground. Find what makes you feel comfortable without overdoing it. And also feel them out. Maybe they're not a big texter. This is the tip I always share, is to talk about texting habits on your dates. In one of those first few dates, bring up texting. Just take a little pulse check to see if they're the kind of person who likes to text or if they're the kind of person who leaves their phone on Do Not Disturb all day long and puts it in another room. Like, figure out who they are so you know what to expect. But whatever you do, don't play text chicken. If you want to initiate a conversation, do it. If you want to initiate a date, do it. Don't overthink it. Again, this is showing interest because you're interested. Another way to get past date 3 is to talk about what you want to talk about on dates. Your dates will be more fun, especially for you, if you bring up topics, ask questions, get into the things you enjoy talking about. 1, you'll have more fun. 2, you look great and give off a great energy when you are enjoying the conversation, when you are lit up about what you're talking about. Like, that is going to make you so much more attractive. So that's another thing. This is a smaller tip, I think, that can help you get past date 3, because when you're enjoying yourself, like, people will want more of that. I mean, the right people will, at least, right? So if you're worried about lulls, if you're worried about awkward silences or just like kind of dead ends in a conversation, think about things you want to talk about and bring that to the table. Okay, my 5th technique for you is to keep going even when you're on the fence. It's okay to date someone to see if you like them. You don't have to know in early dating. The whole point is you're figuring it out. You're just trying to see if you like them, if you want to keep going. So let's say by date 3, you're not sure. It's okay to have date 4 as long as you had a good enough time to want to have date 4, if that makes sense. So it's okay to keep going. I once went out with someone like 10 times before I could decide really if I like them or not. And I know that sounds like way too many dates, and I probably should have figured that out sooner, but it was tough because they were great. I mean, he was great. He was attractive, great on paper, all the things. And I had to just kind of keep going until I knew either way. So don't put so much pressure on yourself if you don't know by date 3. Go on another date. Sometimes having that next date can give you the information that you need to know either way. Okay, the 6th one is break the touch barrier. Make a point on the first date to get some touch going. And that means hugging, maybe holding a hand, touching on the forearm, elbow, shoulder, arm, knee, like all these, the safe zones where you can probably be okay touching someone. Obviously, read the room, read the cues, but like, I'm not saying have sex. I'm not saying do a full-on makeout. I'm just saying break the touch barrier, because that's another way of showing interest. It's another way of building trust and comfort with someone. And then you won't be getting to date 3 or 4 being like, why won't they kiss me? You need to start building that familiarity soon. So I would say at minimum, hug them when you see them, or hug them goodbye if you feel safe to, if you want to. But like, that's what we're going for here. And yeah, obviously, if you're feeling it, have a good makeout. That could be so fun and sexy and memorable. So don't overthink it. I think a lot of people are overthinking kissing right now for some reason. If you want to have a first kiss with someone, all you need to do is say, hey, I actually really want to kiss you right now. Or you can do one of those, I'm sorry, I'm not listening to you because I just can't stop thinking about kissing you. That is so hot. Like, just say that kind of thing, express it and see what they say. Or read the room, read the cues, and go for it, right? You can also text them after your date. I wish we kissed. Just make it known that you want it to happen. It's another way of showing interest. I think it's totally appropriate in early dating to say you want to kiss someone. You're not saying you want to get in bed with them. You're not saying you want to be with them forever. It's just a kiss. Okay, my 7th technique for you is to ask good questions. We want to keep dating people, like I said earlier, who are fun to talk to and have good questions. And I know you want to be asked good questions too. I totally get it, but you can only control what you're doing. So bring your juicy questions to the date. And if you need help with this, I have a great free guide for you in the show notes. I have over 90 different questions for getting to know someone in early dating. I will link it below. It's a great free resource. It's hosted in Notion, so it's super easy to access, and it'll be there for you when you need it if you get stuck on what to ask people. Okay, finally, I'm saving the best one for last because I think this is the most important technique for building momentum and getting past date 3. And that is use FaceTime and phone calls. We need to use phone calls more. Tell me in the comments. I need to know if you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube. Are you a phone person? How do you feel about FaceTimes? How do you feel about phone calls? Would you call someone you are newly dating, like in the first few dates? Please tell me. I think this is such an underutilized tool in early dating to keep momentum going because of the logistics friction that I mentioned earlier, the travel plans, the last minute things that come up, whatever it is that's causing you to delay or postpone dates. You can use phone calls between them to build momentum, to keep that connection going. We need to be doing this more. I can tell you right now that phone calls and FaceTimes were huge in my connection with Johnny in our early days. Like, as you probably know, the first 4 dates we had were virtual. We had 2 video, kind of Zoom dates, and then 2 longer phone calls, around 30 minutes. And that was great. But even after we met in person, Johnny would call me between dates. He's just a guy who's going to pick up the phone and call me. I remember after our first in-person date, which was on a Saturday, the next day on a Sunday, he called me randomly out of the blue. And I happened to be driving back from rock climbing with my friends. And I'm like, who does this guy think he is? He's just calling me. I was kind of amused by this, but I was also like, this is different. This is kind of refreshing. And I picked up the phone and we chatted while I was driving. And Johnny is someone who still continues to call me even when he's on his way home from work and he'll be home in 2 minutes. He'll still want to chat on his commute home, which is very short, but it's so adorable. I love it. Anyway, all this to say, phone calls help build momentum. Get used to having these quick little calls. It doesn't have to be this long call, the kind that you'd have with your long distance best friend, right? It can be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be this whole thing. So think about it. And if you're struggling with how to initiate that, what I would suggest, you can text them and ask hey, would you ever be open to a phone call? Just ask them that. Just see what they say. Or if you're texting back and forth and they seem responsive, be hey, would you rather just jump on the phone right now? I feel like that'd be easier. So much better than texting. So much better. Or if one of you is going to be away for a couple of days and you can't have your next date, be oh, I'm bummed I won't be able to see you until I get back, but why don't we have a phone call in the meantime? Super easy, super casual. So to everyone listening, I want to see you using phone calls more to build momentum. This doesn't have to be some big mystery, right? Keep that connection going. My 9th technique would be focus on dynamic dates. So let's talk about what kinds of dates you should be having in the first 3 dates to build that momentum and make a better connection. And overall, just the headline here is pick activities you enjoy and would look forward to no matter what, and try to avoid just all 3 being dinner dates. That's what we really want to avoid. So what should we do on the first 3 dates? Ideally, you're having 1 date per week, but obviously that can be tough with all the logistics friction. So here's what we're going for though, assuming you can do 1 date a week. The first date should be coffee, drinks, or a walk, 1 to 2 hours max. Keeping it short helps you avoid burnout. It leaves you both wanting more, and it's just a vibe check, right? That's all first date is. You're just seeing, can I enjoy talking to this person for an hour or 2? That's all it is. You can save the fancy schmancy dates for later when your connection is stronger. Trust me, it'll be more fun. Second date should be maybe dinner and or appetizers, 2 hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours. Try to sit at the bar or next to each other, right? Avoid sitting across from each other if you can. And you can include a walk before or after to make it more dynamic. Better yet, like the ideal second date would be doing drinks and dinner or dinner and dessert at two different places because a date that travels is way more fun. Finally, the third date, I recommend doing an activity, a comedy show, something like mini golf or a board game cafe, and just something a little more active and interactive. Think 3 to 5 hours. And it's super important to do an activity date in the first few dates, not the first date, but second or third for sure. It helps you build chemistry and connection and make memories together. It's also easier to interact with something external or in your environment rather than just chatting about each other's lives. This is how you build real momentum. This formula works really well. And if you tried it, please let me know. So those are all the techniques I want you to focus on to help you build momentum and get past date 3. I think you don't have to fire on all cylinders here. You don't have to use all of them, but I hope that you can pick and choose which ones you want to try, especially moving forward. I highly recommend experimenting with different dating approaches. So if there's anything in that list that sounded just slightly out of your comfort zone but doable, that's the one you should do. Okay, so what are you paying attention to in the first 3 dates? What are you even looking for? Because I think this is another reason where we get a little lost in the weeds. You are not going to know if they're your husband or wife on the first date. You're not supposed to know. The people who say they know, I'm sorry, but they're probably full of shit. So I'm just saying, for most of us, you're not going to know on the first date. Here's what we're looking for. Do you want to get to know them more? Are you curious about them? Do you like being around them so far, right? Are they easy to be around? Do you feel like calm and in your body and like you can be yourself? You can just be relaxed. And if you feel nervous, is it because of them or is it just because you're nervous for a first date, right? Like that's you need to be able to know the difference. And the third thing would be, are your intentions somewhat aligned? Like, are you learning enough about them to know that there is a future there so far? Like when it comes to your values and lifestyle so far, you can't learn everything in the first 3 dates, but so far, have you learned enough to think that maybe this is viable? You can keep going. Those are the main 3 things. Do you want to get to know them? Do you like being around them? Are you somewhat aligned so far? It's really simple. What I don't want you to do, other than, try to figure out if they're long-term partner material, is imagine a future together. We don't want to be doing that. You don't want to say to anyone that you found the one. Okay, I know a great first date can be very deceiving. Okay, and I have had so many people message me after the second date being like, I think I found the one. And then only a week later, it's like, no, it didn't work out. We're not saying that. And of course, I really don't want you to attach your self-worth to if they want to see you again. They're a stranger. Again, the first 3 dates, you're probably not spending more than 12 hours together. Hopefully, if you are, kind of going for that slow burn, if you are doing it a little bit more intentionally, you haven't spent that much time together. So I don't want you to assign your value, your self-worth based on how that connection is going. Another question I got about this is, what if they're great on paper, but I'm not feeling it by date 3? Obviously, if you're not attracted to them, if you're just not feeling it after 3 dates, don't continue. Don't force it. If you discover a deal breaker or something you don't like, you have my permission to just call it off. Obviously, you're going to meet really great, nice people along in your dating journey that are just not your match. And you need to be able to recognize that and walk away the second you know they're not your match. This is just part of dating. And I think getting to the third date with someone is hard, but that doesn't mean you should keep seeing them just because you get to the third date if you're not feeling it, right? Don't let that be the thing like, oh, we got to the third date, so we should keep going. I don't want you to fall into that trap either. I want you to get to the third date with someone where there's mutual interest, mutual attraction, and mutual curiosity about each other to keep going. And the last question I got is, how do you not get discouraged when the 3-date fizzle keeps happening? It's hard, okay? Like the 3-date mark is a big deal because it is so hard to get to, weirdly. It's not something you would expect going into dating, right? I know this sounds a little weird and counterintuitive, but I almost think it's better to go into those first few dates almost expecting it not to work out. I know it sounds not great, but it's just to help keep yourself grounded and a little bit detached from the outcome. It's like, let's just see if I even like this person enough to go out with them 3 times. That's your mindset here. So if it doesn't work out by date 3, you just know it's like, okay, I only invested a short amount of time into getting to know someone. It's not a huge loss. I gained experience here and I can take whatever I learned into my next connection. And I know it's rough to keep starting over every time, but like I said, it's just part of dating. And I really want you to know that the right person won't be scared off by you being yourself, by you showing appropriate levels of interest early on, and by you wanting to move the connection forward. So keep dating and keep giving yourself opportunities to click with people. All right, let's take a quick break. And up next, we have our dating dilemma. Welcome back. So we are going to get into today's dating dilemma, but first I want to remind you that you could submit your own for me to read on the podcast or on YouTube. In the show notes below, there's a link that says Ask a Dating Question, and that's where you can submit it anonymously. Thank you to everyone who has submitted. All right. Hey, Talia, I have a dating dilemma. I am a 33-year-old woman and a guy I've been on one date with, also 33, and I have been texting a bunch, and he keeps saying things like, quote, if we hit it off, or if all goes well, we should go to a concert in February. I'm feeling both turned off because I just don't know him very well, and I'm weirded out by his forward-thinking comments, but at the same time, it's kind of nice, and I feel like the pressure is on. I think he's just excited, and he told me he likes me on our first date, which was also a bit forward, but I'm wondering if this is normal to feel all these different things and how to handle it. This is an interesting one. Thank you for submitting it. If you're listening, I would love to hear your take. Personally, I don't think someone saying, I like you on a first date is weird. That is not too much to me. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Isn't that kind of the point of dating, to figure out if you like someone enough to keep going? Is it possible that you made a great first impression and he liked you off the bat? Let me know what you think. I've said I like you after one date. I don't know, maybe I'm forward, but let me know what you think. I don't think that's weird at all. As for the concert, yes, that is a bit far. This was submitted in November, by the way. And I would love to know if you two are still dating and what's going on. So if you're listening, please send an update. But I think that the soft invite to a concert 3 months from your first date is just wishful thinking. I don't think it's like a blaring red flag. But if this happens again, you can say, I appreciate the soft invite, but would rather focus on the present, then change the subject or ask them a question of other concerts they've been to, or, if you want to stay on that topic, I would just say, let's keep it to the now, the here and now. Let's focus on our next date, not the next month. I went out with a guy 5 times and he invited me to a concert for like 2 weeks from our last date. And I called it off somewhere in between then. And look, it happens, right? Like, people will find someone else to go with if they buy tickets. It's not the end of the world. I know you'll feel pressure, but like another option is just be like, yeah, let's see what happens, and kind of roll with it and literally just let it play out. I also want you to remember that you control the pace. You get to go as fast or slow as you want to, and you're going to find someone who's on board with that pacing. Let me know what you think about this one, though. I thought this was really interesting because I think people can get really excited and like, oh, I have this something I want to experience with a potential date, and they're going to bring it up on the date, and it's like, we don't know each other. So I don't know. I do think this happens quite a bit. I don't think it's like this big red flag. I think it's just the kind of thing that you want to help that person be grounded and be like, okay, let's just come back to this moment, this date that we're on right now. Let's figure out if we want date 2 before we want to see a concert together in 3 months. All right, so that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you so much for listening. Thank you for trusting me, and don't forget, you're doing great. If you know someone who is navigating dating and could use a confidence boost or a fresh perspective, share this episode with them. And if this podcast has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, I'm Talia. This is Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you next time.